Hello, this is a video tutorial or a workshop on ArcScene, and we will connect some diagram in 3D with Rhino. We're gonna use some Grasshopper to get some networks that are gonna look interesting to know more about what's happening in the city from an abstract point of view. And then in theory, you will take those diagrams that come from Grasshopper, you will take them to Illustrator and clean up, and from there a PDF, and from there to the book right after the mapping of your databases within your neighborhoods. Okay, so ArcScene, let's start. Um, it's a program within GIS, so if you want to search for it, it's probably, I mean, you probably have a different interface, but just search within all the apps or all the programs for ArcGIS, and this ArcScene is different from ArcMap. ArcScene allows you to get this three-dimensional kind of a solids that allow you to understand data from a third dimension as well. So you can see the interface is very similar. So what we're going to do is very similar to ArcMap. Just right click on scene layers and add data. You need to connect the same way you will connect with ArcMap, and you can also take your own layers, the one that you've been using for ArcMap, directly here, so you don't have to work out the whole process. I'm going to select Pluto, for example. It comes in front of you. If you right click, you can zoom in. It's a bit sensible in that sense, so be careful. If you left click, you orbitate. It's a little confusing compared to other programs. And then if you scroll, it's the inverse of what we used to it. So if you scroll in and out, it's just the inverse of, again, what we used to it. So good. So we get the same kind of outcome. You will have, again, your neighborhoods, and you can do a similar thing. Just go to properties and get the symbology, and you can go to quantities and select one of the options that you can find within your attribute table. No, so in that sense, nothing is different. So I'm gonna go to properties, symbology. I'm gonna just select quantities, and just the basic intro will be like number of floors, for example. You could have because I'm going to do a very simple extrusion of each building according to the number of floors, so you understand the basics. I'm going to say number of floors. I'm going to say, I could actually make this a bit more accurate by saying 6 steps or 8 or 10 steps, whatever. Okay, I'm going to say okay. And what happens if I zoom in is that they're just color, similarly to what happens, and again, in ArcMap. So you have a color reference, and that's applied to the map. But we can also right click properties and set the extrusion values. We click here, so we maintain the features in layer, and we can calculate very simply how do we want each of these numeric codes, how do we want to extrude them, or how we want to generate a solid with a vertical dimension according to data within the properties. So we just need to search for whatever we want to extrude. Obviously, if we want to maintain the color code, we should go to number of floors. Say okay, and it comes there. Say okay, and if you check, kind of like low, it's just because it's taken exactly the number of floors, like 53, and extruding that vertically. Okay, so we actually need to, in this case, we need to kind of do a multiplication. So if you go to extrusion, you can go to calculation, and here or there directly you can say multiply, let's say by 14. Let's imagine it's 14 feet each of the floors going up. So you say okay, you make sure that's correct, and you say okay. That will be, this is pretty much a rough calculation of how you will do an extrusion according to number of floors. Of course, other data sets could have, instead of number of floors, directly the building height, and then you don't need to multiply by anything unless we're dealing with different units. So okay, so that would be a very easy way for you to get a nice simple 3D model of your neighborhood area, and you can always just export 3D. You select VRML, and you can import it into Rhino directly. We'll talk about it in a second. I actually don't want to use this set just as an example. I'm going to remove this and add a data. I'm going to just go to another set. Again, at my home I have different sets. You have different kind of connection folders. So I'm gonna go to sensors 2010. I'm gonna click that. Comes with these options. And again, the same thing. I'm gonna go to properties and see what's going on under symbologies. And I'm gonna just do one of population studies. So I'm just gonna go, for example, Asian. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. You all know about this. It's going to be color according to where Asian population is majorly set or less set within this neighborhood. This is Lower Manhattan. This is North Brooklyn. And then again, I'm going to go over properties and go to extrusion and click here and set like the extrusion value to be Asian again. So I'm just going to search for same value Asian, and I'm going to say okay. Okay. As you can see, it's extruded very, very little. So here's the point where we start thinking on diagramming. So I think what we should do is really understand what data sets we have and multiply them. Again, I could go here, or I could just click on the multiply symbol and set a factor of 10 or 20 and apply. So we start having like a more of a diagrammatic value. So let's say 100, just to exaggerate. Okay, we start understanding a little more like through volumetric quality, like again the diagram of population set. Let's say 500. Gonna say okay. So this automatically is somehow related to the physical logic of the city, but is entirely deconstructed in diagrammatic terms, meaning there's obviously no buildings this high, but allows us to understand slightly the relationship between height and populated areas. I also see some, I don't know if it's a mistake or so, but the darker should be the highest, obviously. So let me check what the problem could be. 2010 properties. I'm gonna go to symbology, and it's Asian, and that should be correct. Say okay, and then extrusion, it's Asian, so HL, H and H. You see how it's actually a different condition. So let's make sure this property set, the values should be exactly the same. NH. Click 2 times, so I'm just gonna remove that, and again multiply by 500. Say okay, apply. Now obviously that's going wild. Water. Sorry again. Let's go step by step. Asian, and did we say NH? Asian NH, and then multiply by 500. Okay, apply. Okay, so obviously now we start seeing that this 500 is way too large. So this is where I was mentioning that under extrusion we should just value this properly according to that numeric value. That's 100, a bit too much. Again, so we want to find like that momentum where the diagram makes sense also within the composition. Let's say 10. Let's take a look. Okay, 10. And now again, the colors of higher make sense in terms of darkness. Okay, so again, we could very simply just set this in the center in some way and make like a export in 2D, and we can select actually an Illustrator, or we can set it like a PDF or so. But the goal of this Sam is to actually take it to Rhino and start getting networks out of this. Okay, I'm gonna actually reduce that. It's a bit too much, but anyway, that doesn't look bad. Around 5. Let me see. Good. Okay. Nice. Okay. So now that what we do is extract our 3D, and again on VR ML. So I'm gonna call this one. You should call it properly because you're gonna have many of these diagrams, one for each of the maps. So you have to be very good at naming conventions. So this is gonna be Asian, even the NL value, and then you can call it extruded times, or just you can say 5. I believe extruded 5. Export. That's good. So I'm gonna actually go to Rhino. I'm gonna gonna say new, and it should be in feet, large objects. And double click there, and I'm confused with the buttons, right, left, center, whatever. Anyway, you get used to that, and you go file, import. Here comes the drawing, the open folder. Here is Asian. Say open. Here's what happens when you bring that type of file. It just rotated 90 degrees. So, and also it brings like a little light. I don't know if you see it here. Let me see if I can select it. There is, see that? So you want to delete that. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out. I'm gonna look this shaded. It looks nice there. And again, we want to take care of that rotation. So what I'm gonna do is create a line, enter. I'm gonna press 0, enter. So it starts from the 0. Exactly. I'm gonna press Shift, or you can go to Ortho to create a very large orthographic line. And I'm gonna do another line, enter, and I press 0, enter, to create another reference line. Next step, I'm gonna select all of our city extrusions, and we're gonna rotate 3D. Okay, I press enter. I'm gonna press 0 again, so we start the rotation from there. Now, if you have the ortho, you need the ortho here. You need to click once on this axis, another one on this axis, and then another one upwards. Okay, deselect, so you make sure that the city is looking up. This rotation needs to happen for every single diagram that comes from GIS. Okay, I'm gonna delete these lines, or what you could do is actually place them in a layer. I'm gonna put in layer 01, and I'm gonna rename them as line work. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off, and the rest, again, you have to delete that kind of a lighting that was there. I'm gonna put in layer 2. I'm gonna rename it diagram bulk. Okay. Okay, very simple. This is a mesh. Okay, so if we go and see this, it looks like a kind of a mesh triangulation. So the first thing we need to do is convert it into, by the way, whenever I get this is the center button, you get like a little, and you probably don't have these options, so you can just go to this one, right click there. I'm gonna say select all of them. I'm gonna say make, sorry, that's not the way, mesh to nerve. This allows us to generate the nerves that are behind that mesh, and without deselecting, just delete. If I press delete now while it's all yellow, I'm deleting the mesh. Okay, and I'm just sticking with the surface, with the nerves. Okay, this is what we need to now start the grasshopper element. Okay, you definitely want to save this. Should save it properly. Again, it could be like the same Asian underscore, and now extruded like 5. Save, and we're ready to start jumping into, let me make sure this is in this layer, yeah, correct, into the next video, which is going to be a grasshopper. Okay, save, and go to the next video.